Hey mom, how's it going?
I am having a great day, Lindsay. I just got back from the first trip of 2026, and it's a beautiful day outside. So I am feeling really good today. Like 2026 is off to a great start. And yeah, how are you doing? What's your day look like?
I'm doing good. I am doing well. 2026 has taken off like an absolute rocket. I was actually just talking to a friend and I was like, actually, I don't think I've like breathed, like had like a moment to like breathe at work all year, which is a good problem to have, right? A good problem, like lots of new partnerships happening and lots of new things going on. So it's an exciting time. Totally. But
Yeah, yeah.
I am one of the new things of this year that we have been doing is having some new guests on the podcast. And previously, we used to say no to a lot of guests who weren't actually part of insurance agencies. But we got some feedback in the end of last year that asked for, I want to hear how other businesses operate other than insurance agencies themselves, right? I want to hear how tax people operate, how accounting people operate. I want to hear how legal people operate. Like, tell me about multiple different types of businesses and let us relate it in our heads to our businesses, which are insurance agencies. So, we're branching out today. I'm super excited. We have Tony Lew from InsurTech New York on, and we're going to talk all about different types of new insurtechs that are coming up. We're lucky because he gets to see a bunch of different types of startups and all of their different changes. So, Tony, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Carrie and Lindsay, for having me. I'm honored to be the first guest of this new world you're building here. So appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. We've had a we have had a couple different industry guests, but I'm
Right.
excited because I think our main listener base, right, will be able to relate a lot. They use a lot of the tools that are coming out of InsurTech New York and that InsurTech New York are getting to help. So it's going to be fun to really dive deep and see in these companies that they actually know what's
Mhm.
helping drive business, helping them be successful, all of those types of things.
Yeah, no, excited to share.
So Tony, before we jump into any InsurTech, tell me
Yeah.
why InsurTech New York? Why did you even start this? Like, how was it born, and what did that trajectory look like?
Sure, yeah. So we started this organization in 19, myself and my business partner, David Gritz. Initially, we were actually consultants helping different companies, including startups, which included insurtechs. And mainly the reason why we focused on insurtechs and we ended up focusing more on insurtech is David had experience in that network. He was part of our accelerator in the West Coast focused on insurtechs, and he was also a founder of an insurtech that exited to a carrier. So he has some expertise in network. I did it, didn't have a lot of experience in insurance up until that point, but I also like the idea of focusing on insurance because it's a industry with a lot of problems. Any industry problem is typically a good area for solutions. You need problems have solutions, right? And we knew that it was the industry, a lot of technology problems, and that's an area that we thought we could help. So we decided to focus on it. Yeah, and the other thing is like insurance is like I feel like it's a noble industry. I think more insurance is good for the society, and so I
Sure.
didn't have to, I felt like I should be able to wake up in the morning helping this industry grow, right? And
Yeah.
what's interesting is a lot of the technology that are out there, especially if they're actually doing digital distribution and things like that, they tend to focus on sort of the neglected customer segment, those who are not targeted because maybe the premiums are lower and so the agents weren't focusing on them, right? Or agents want to focus, they just didn't have the time. So a lot of the technology allows them to be more scalable and more efficient. And so it actually does really help the broader society be more insured and therefore, have better peace of mind. So that's kind of how we got into insurance. But, we basically like created this community business sort of out of kind of happenstance. We thought that, attending events is like one of the best ways to meet these founders. And we thought, hey, why don't we host our own event in New York? Because there weren't much going on in New York for InsurTech conferences back then. So we started hosting events, and they went well. So we kind of decided to do more of this and less consulting. And so now we do many other things. We do like 4 or 5 different things, including conference and events. But that's kind of how we got started.
That's awesome. I
Yeah,
love that.
that's really interesting. So when you started,
Mhm.
what was the state of InsurTech, right? Because this
Yeah,
word is kind of like a new-ish buzzword
yeah,
in the last, I want to say like 5 years to the average agent.
yeah.
So what was the state of what InsurTech looked like when InsurTech New York started?
Yeah, so 2019. So according to this guy, he claims that he created that term InsurTech. His name, a guy named Boss, and he used to run AXA's like innovation group in Silicon Valley. But he said like this is like acts as a French company, and he like had all these reasons. Because if you think about it, InsurTech, when I first read InsurTech, I thought there was a missing E. I thought
Yeah,
it
for
should have been
sure.
insure with the E and then tech, right? And so I was like, this doesn't sound right. But
Someone doesn't
apparently,
know how to spell, right? Like I
right,
was thinking,
exactly,
this person doesn't know how to spell, right?
exactly. But apparently, there's a reason why that makes sense in French. I forget the reason, but so yeah. So anyway, I believe him. He said he invented it, but I think it happened like 2015 is kind of when he said he used it. But there are other companies in the tech space and insurance, like Guidewire has been around for many years. Even, a lot of
Sure.
the agency management system has been around. But the term probably started around 2015. But 2019 is when we started our organization. And this was probably like peak. What I think the Gartner has like this thing, so they're like peak hype, I would say. It was like super hyped made, I guess it was like maybe 1 year removed from the peak hike. 2020 was for the peak hike. But Lemonade didn't go. Basically, none of the insurtechs had gone public. The new insurtechs have gone public, but they were getting a lot of funding. And there's like carriers were afraid in a little bit that maybe these new insurtechs will like eat them alive. Some of brokers and agents were maybe at this point maybe less worried, but at least up until 27, 20, they're worried. Hey, maybe like these insurtechs will like do everything digitally and we won't be needed, right? So there's a little bit of concern there, probably
Sure.
prior
Yeah.
to 2019. But by the time this 2019 came along, there was a bit of change in that dynamic. There was understanding that brokers are here to stay, agents are here to stay. This is a very relationship business. Insurtechs are not the competitors, but they're actually enablers. They actually
Mhm.
help agents and brokers be more effective. And then carriers were less worried about Lemonade taking over, but there's still concern there. But a lot of money was being poured in. Like there's investors from obviously they're insurtech investors, but there are a lot of like tourist investors that we call them, like people who knew nothing about insurance, so they're just like pouring money. This is also peak hype across all venture capital, 2019, 2020. And so there's a lot of money was being poured in, more insurtechs were getting created. So it was actually like pretty exciting times for insurtech.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
From that, what were some of the things that, like looking back at companies who might have joined InsurTech New York, like right from the jump, what are some of the things that you saw like super sustainable and like helped them grow? And then
Mhm.
what are some things that really tanked a company, right?
Yeah. So there are definitely groups of companies, especially back then, started by founders who knew nothing about insurance, right? And they basically, and some of them were like the ones that went public and or somewhat successful, but eventually they weren't as successful as they could have been. And they were, they basically kind of like put the industry down. They said like we're going to take over the world. Like we don't need you guys. We don't need carriers. We don't need brokers. Um, and then there are a lot of like tech tech guys. If we didn't know much about insurance, they'll kind of come in. And eventually, those guys weren't as successful, or they just weren't successful at all. And because the thing is, or they had to pivot a lot, right? So like some of these like lemonades of the world, they were getting a lot of money and they were basically growing at all costs, spending a lot of money on marketing, but they didn't care about loss ratios, right? And insurance is all about like premium and loss. Like that's the game here, right? And you can't just grow at all costs. That's not sustainable. And
So
so they
Tony,
learn.
what works in another industry may
Yeah.
not work in
No.
insurance. And I love that
Yeah.
Yeah.
you led, and there's many reasons why a company fails or is successful. And I love that you led with the ones that weren't as successful didn't come from insurance, because
Yeah.
outsiders see it as problems and opportunities, and almost like, why are you people like, why are you stuck in the dark ages
Yeah.
when once you get in, you realize why there are certain things the way that they are, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
love that that's the thing you started with, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very regulated industry, but it's also like a social good industry too. Like, there's only so much profit you can make. There's like different
Yeah.
things. So also there's, legacy systems that's been in existence for decades. It's just hard to replace that right away. So many of these founders who didn't get it eventually had to pivot a lot or had to learn the hard way. So some of them did, or just didn't succeed. So like the new crops of founders that we've seen who have been successful are actually like typically people who come from the industry. They could be agents, they could be carrier underwriters or like claims people. So they've been in the industry, they've seen the problems, they felt the pain, right? And then they're like, hey, I can do this better. Let me go create a company that actually addresses these pains. And so many of those guys have gone on to do quite well. Yeah.
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 So when you have new insurtechs come to InsurTech New York, is there a vetting process, and are things that you're looking for to make sure that, or is it come all, like we're gonna
Yeah.
help whoever we can?
Yeah. So it depends on the program. So there are a few different programs that we have. So one of them is obviously we have the events and conference, and anybody can come, right? It's just more of like a educational networking kind of events, and so you can come and network and learn from each other. So we don't filter for that. But we also have basically four other like startup programs, starting with the early stage startup competition. So this is for companies who are quite new, doesn't have a lot of revenue or maybe zero revenue, and it could be an idea. And we try to encourage these new companies to get the benefit of marketing and some visibility. So we open up the application in January. It's actually open right now. And then we close it out in February. We pick 10 companies to join the conference, actually. That's happening end of March. And the top 10 will present to our judges, and the judge will pick two winners. That's
That's
basically kind of,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is called the InsurTech Match Program. This is for later stage companies, and we connect them to carriers and brokers who are interested in working with them. So we have that. We also have another accelerator called MGA Lab, where we create new MGA businesses.
Cool.
So we have that. And then finally, we have a fund. So we invest in startups. And so that has a very specific criteria, and it's we
So let me
yeah.
ask you, you
So
said
yeah.
one of the types of businesses that are successful come
Yeah.
as a carrier, or they were part of a network, or they were part of
Yeah.
the industry. For those agency owners that decide to also start an insurtech, there could be like, I got to run my agency and I want to start this startup. Like, have you seen that work, or is there a is there a balance between running your first business and starting this other business that you advise them on? Because there's a lot of agency owners that
Yeah.
have great ideas because they're walking in the shoes every single day. Tell me what that looks like, because I'm sure you've seen many of them.
Yeah. So um, yeah, that's not me, right? Yeah. I hear
Can you
like
not hear the background noise? Yeah, Lindsay, you have a lot of background noise.
I do? Hang on, I'm sorry. I don't know why.
We'll cut that out, obviously.
okay. I'm sorry, I was kind of distracted with the noise. I didn't really
Oh, I'm sorry.
capture your question, Carrie. Can you repeat
I
that?
said,
Yeah,
yeah. All right, we're going to start
yeah.
now.
Okay.
Got it. When there's an agency owner that also starts an InsurTech, oftentimes they're trying to do both. They're running their agency and they're starting this startup. What advice do you give to agency owners that see the opportunity, want to do that? Doing both has to be difficult. Talk about what that
Yeah.
advice and journey looks like.
So typically what I've seen is you kind of need to have a focus. So yes, I have seen agency owners have run their agency and the tech, but as at pretty early on, once they figure out the tech is something they want to do, then I've seen many of them end up selling their agency business and focusing on the
Yeah.
tech. I've seen many examples of that. So that definitely happens, especially nowadays with the private equity and roll-up companies buying agency. It's a pretty good time to actually make some make some money and have some liquidity so that you can actually support a kind of like a fun project like an insurtech, right? So yeah, you can
Yeah.
do. Yeah, I've seen many agency owners who.
Yeah, I love that. But I mean, and I think that's true for anything if we're being honest, right? Like
Okay.
if you're running any business and you're not focused solely on that and you get focused on a
Yeah.
million different things, it's really hard to be good at
Yeah.
a million different things. So, yeah, I
It's really
totally.
difficult, and it's such a different type of business running an agency business versus, and also there's different kind of insurtechs, but most agency owners who start an insurtech are basically building like an agent tech, as in like a technology
Yes.
software or data company that helps other agencies. So it's a different, that's the same space, but complete different types of business, different revenue model, different sales. So they do
Yeah.
need to focus on it.
So I think in every business, the idea part is easy. Like it's easy to
Mm,
see an opportunity. It's easy
mm,
to think
yeah.
you have a couple different ways to solve a problem. Like almost, and for some, that's the stumbling block. Like not everybody owns a business. So
Yeah.
once you have this idea, they come and they get some support from you. I think one of the hardest things is scale. Like,
Yeah.
how do you create something that can go beyond a very small market? What do you do to help some of these companies get over that hump and figure out, really try and solve the scale problem? Because it's not the same. It really depends on what the product or what the company is or product or focus. So I'd love to
Yeah.
hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that sounds like a problem. Basically, I kind of see it as like simplified. I'll simplify it as like three stages. First is you
Yeah.
have this idea, right? And then you build something, maybe have like one pilot customer, maybe it's you, right? And then you build it. And so that's the first like phase zero, I should say, right? And then you're like, hey, there's something here. I built something. Maybe I can have a few more customers use it. And so you do that. You sell it to a few customers. They use it. They really like it. You're kind of getting this feedback. You have some revenue, right? And so once you have that, then you can actually kind of scale it, right? You're still always learning, you're tweaking, but you can kind of get to that scaling phase. But it's difficult to actually get there because a lot of times you have an idea, you test it out, it doesn't work, you know. So and some founders like want to make it work, so they're gonna continue to push and like tweak it and change it, but it takes time and effort and energy. So we've seen a lot of them kind of stop at like this phase one, and so that could happen, right? And that tests how much effort you're gonna put into it. Building any business is difficult, and building a startup is like very difficult too, especially because unlike other types of like cash business, startups typically don't actually make money for many years. They oftentimes, if you want to be a venture-backed business, venture-backed startup, you're not really making money until you sell the business. Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of the founders don't even pay themselves. We actually, as a fund, we like founders who are cheap to themselves because that means they're going to use the money for like other stuff, right? Like other team members or like marketing or other areas. Because like money is like very sparse. Like you have so much place to use the money for. And so, if the founders paying themselves like 150K, 200K, whatever, then, it's like, then they only have so much money. Like that's basically they're just paying themselves to run this business. Usually it doesn't work well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's something that we have seen. But yeah, once you get to that stage, then if it's a venture backable business, then you got to get some funding, right? You get some VC funding, angel investors, and then you have to hire the right team to actually grow. So that's a skill that you got to develop. Or I mean, if you're an agency owner, you have a team, then you have that skill. But again, it's a little bit different because you're running software team, development team, you're running like B2B sales team, right? It's marketing. It's just different team members that you have to manage.
Sure.
So it's a skill you got to develop as a founder. And we've also seen some founders actually basically hand off to another CEO and take a backseat. That has happened.
Well, and actually, those that actually recognize I don't have the skill set. I had the
Yeah.
idea,
Yeah.
but to get it to market and get it scalable, that isn't my skill set,
Yeah.
is an okay thing. Like that
Yeah.
actually can be the most healthy situation that occurs in
Yeah.
a business to make it successful. So if I'm an agency owner and I'm listening to this and I'm hearing, hang on a minute, there's insurtechs out there that the founder's not getting paid. That's a great idea. They might not be getting there. I feel like there's so many opportunities and there's so much opportunity inside our marketplace right now inside insurance to innovate, to think about how we do our work differently, to think about how we use our team differently,
Yeah.
just to think about all the opportunities. How do you, from the consumer side now,
Mm-hmm.
how do you really decide which one am I going to double down on
Mm.
and really think about, and which ones might not be here or might get sold too quickly or might get acquired too quickly, that I have my team get around it. And the next thing I know, it isn't the way that it's no longer whatever
Mm.
form or fashion. Because when someone gets acquired or
Yeah.
like, how do you decide? Like, what are the things they should be looking for? You have some
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So if you're a forward-looking agent who wants to leverage the latest technology, by the way, if you're an agency owner, you should definitely be thinking like this.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll be, I think you'll be out of business if you're not using technology in at least a few years' time, because everyone else will be, right? So, you, so the first thing is you have to understand like two things. One is like understand like what's available. Like, because sometimes you don't know what problems you have until you see a solution. It's just kind of like backward way of looking at it, but it helps to see what is out there. At least the types of things you need. You don't need a specific solution per se, but understand like what's out there, right? Also, you have to kind of understand what are the areas in your team that is lacking. Is it like lack of data to understand who your customers are, or to is it new prospect data that you're lacking, or you're lacking information about your existing customer, how to upsell, cross sell? Is it like back office stuff that you have problems with? Like, so it's just having a good awareness of the problems you have, and then you have to talk to some vendors that are out there. The vendors could be like big vendors. It could some of the like AMS vendors actually have started actually um, adding some new features, right? That could help them. Could be some non-insurance specific tools like ChatGPT is a great one. Like you could use that, right? A lot of times though, the insurance specific, agency specific solutions tend to be better because they are very specific. They're created hyper focused, created for the agencies. So understanding and talking to those solution providers will be helpful. How do you meet them? One solution that I think that would be super helpful is Catalyst. So I don't know if you guys know Catalyst, but
I know all
it was,
about Catalyst.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So Catalyst is a great platform. It was definitely created for solve this problem, right? It's like understanding what are all the solutions that are out there that were created for agency owners. It's supported by, I think, like 8 or 9 big I associations nationally and others. And so it's supported by the agency association. So it's a great company, and they have all the different products that are out there that supports agency. That's one way, and they can actually get their help to understand what's actually good. Also, great way is what are your peers using, right? That's a great validation point to see, if it's something worthwhile. Whenever I just personally for our business, whenever we choose a vendor to work with, I always talk to at least one, if not two customers, and that and understanding how they use a vendor, I think is very helpful. So they should definitely do that. Now, in terms of like the actual like the company itself, if it's there's like pros and cons of working with early stage versus late stage. So early stage, yes, the drawback is they may shut down 6 months from now. They might not exist a year from now, and like it's like waste of time, whatever. But the good thing is they're going to be a lot more accommodating. They might even do it for free, right? Because they are so eager. So if you like working with these founders who's going to spend a lot of time with you, and especially if it's a problem that hasn't been solved through other solutions, it's like a new problem. You don't have a choice, right? In that case, working with a founder early on can be very interesting, and they will go out of their way to. So that's kind of one benefit of working early stage. But typically, we recommend you work with a company that has at least 5 to 10 customers already. They're already vetted. Others have vetted them. They're somewhat established, right? And it's less risky. Now, if they get bought out, it's less risky in a sense like they're not going to go out of business anytime soon, right? So you can ask them questions like how much funding do you have? How many customers do you have? You should ask these questions. But yes, they could be acquired. So there's a risk there. It's good to have some kind of like contract in place so that even if they're acquired, they get some level of support, but and the same pricing. Usually, when they're acquired, though, they don't typically shut it down. They're usually acquiring to maintain the revenue they're generating. They might increase the price, so that's something that you need to worry about. But maybe that's something.
Yeah. That's great advice. It truly is. And it's
Yeah.
awesome that, the state associations that you were talking about were really insightful in saying agents struggle with knowing who to invest in and who to partner with and who to
Yeah,
utilize. So I love that Catalyst exists. I think it's such a needed resource and this super, super great advice.
yeah, yeah. So those guys are awesome. Yeah, Jason
Yeah.
and Casey. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So what about your event, Tony? Who is your
yeah.
event for? And if someone wanted to go, how would they know if it's for them?
Sure, yeah. So our conference is for the broader insurance ecosystem, including agents, brokers, carriers, insurtechs, investors, and others. And people come to our conference to learn kind of the latest in innovation and also network. So we typically get like over 1,000 people, and it's over 2 days. And we actually have a dedicated track for PNC and life and health like separately. And we cover from distribution all the way to like claims. So there's gonna be if you're an agent, owner or an agent, you get a lot like distribution related content in the first day. And the second day is like a mix of some carrier things, technology, and then we also host different competition for startups, and that could be interesting. And we're going to have like I think 35 booths in our expo area, and you'll be able to connect with a lot of the vendors that are in the conference. Some of them will be carrier tech, but some will be agency tech. So you have to kind of talk to them to figure out who's the right.
So when's your event and where is it? I'm assuming it's in New York, but I don't know
Yes,
where.
yes. March 30, 31st, and it's going to be in New York City in Chelsea Piers. And you can go to our website, InsurTech NY, INSURTCHNY.com. And, there's going to be a registration link, and yeah, you can just kind of register and join our conference. And I think for our podcast listeners, we'll be sharing a discount code that you can use
Perfect.
to join our. Yeah.
I love it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, Tony, thanks for joining us. I learned a ton here and I appreciate you spending some time with us. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. And I love what you guys are doing out there. I think it's much needed to have the support for these insurtechs and also the way to connect with agents and carriers, et cetera. So thanks so much for coming on and sharing. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Carrie and Lindsay, for having me. I appreciate the time. And yeah, hopefully I'll see either or both of you at the conference and many of the listeners as well.
Awesome. All right.